Welcome to Wild Flow, the podcast with me, your host, Charlotte Pointeau. I'm a wild feminine cycle coach here for the awakened woman who is ready to reclaim her body, menstrual cycle and feminine power, and to live, love and lead in flow with nature's wisdom. In this podcast, I'll share how you can live in sync with your menstrual cycle and life seasons, heal your relationship with your womb and rites of passages, and embody your wild feminine as a multi-passionate woman in life, mothering and business. It's your time to flourish as a cyclical being in this modern world. Are you ready? Let's flow. Hello beauties. Welcome back to Wild Flow. Thank you for joining me today. I am on cycle day 13 after having a 5-day bleed this time and a really strong inner spring phase as well. And I'm just having a fairly tired few days actually after a real burst of energy last week. And it's been a long weekend here, and the day that I'm recording this, we are just about to hit new moon, which feels very much like where my energy's at. So this balance of new moon, quiet, internal, slowing, really quite tired energy, but also being in this pre-ovulation phase of my cycle. I don't think I'm going to ovulate anytime soon, not with my history of longer cycles, but also given all of the signs that I'm sensing in my body. Not there yet, just having a bit of a quiet time. So that's really curious for me how that moon is, I feel like, drawing me back inwards a little bit, but I'm not going to lie, I've also had a bit of a late night watching Netflix recently. So really enjoying Sex Education at the minute. I've only just found it, and I gather it's been out for quite a while, but been absolutely giggling like a little girl watching that, and just remembering you know what it was like for me at school, and just really loving the openness, the inclusion of it as well, the how it's so sex positive and body positive. It's so, like I say, inclusive. And there's just so many conversations happening about all facets of sexuality and gender and identity and what it means to be discovering who you are. So if you haven't seen it, fully recommend it. But if you've seen it, you'll know what I'm talking about. So I think that's definitely a factor in my late nights. So we had a few late nights watching that. I had a bar of chocolate and a margarita in bed this weekend, watching Sex Education. So that was pretty rock and roll. It was fun. So anyway, on to today's topic, shifting gears slightly. I really wanted to talk about how to connect and why you would want to connect with your womb. So last week's episode, if you haven't heard that one yet, is all about supporting your menstrual health through womb steaming, and that's a really beautiful way. So I feel like this is going to explain why we want to connect energetically with our womb, some different ways beyond steaming that was mentioned that we can connect with our womb and our cycle, and some practical ways that you can do that for yourself, bringing together all kinds of different elements and ways of doing that depending on what your interests are. So what does it mean to connect with your womb? Your womb is your uterus. So it's the muscular organ that sits pretty much between your hip bones in your pelvis, and it's where your egg is released into from your ovaries, and it's held in case it's going to be fertilized, and if you're becoming pregnant, then obviously your womb would grow and hold your baby. But if pregnancy is not part of your experience, part of your journey, then just monthly, once you begin your menstrual cycles, then your womb lining thickens and releases, thickens and releases, just as part of this process of preparing for potential conception. So it's a muscle that can grow to, I don't know actually how many times its size, but your womb when not pregnant is about the size of your fist for an adult, and it sits behind your pubis bone, right down in your pelvic bowl. And when a full-term pregnancy is the size of a watermelon, and it fills up that whole cavity, reaching up to just underneath your ribs. So beautiful, strong muscle. It's this beautiful space. It's fluid filled. It fills with blood, this rich lining that forms the nutrition, this home for the egg. And then when that is not fertilized, that lining's released with your bleed. So we know what that is. But your womb as an energetic space is so much more than just about pregnancy or even just about bleeding. So it's obviously inherently connected to birthing, but also to your cycles. And it also, because of this, it's like a portal, I think, into your lineage, past and present and future. So you were born through a womb, and you hold that connection in your own womb, and any children you do birth would be birthed through your womb. And this connection, this energy is held very much in your womb, going all the way back through time, past, present, and future. But it also really, it holds so much more. It holds so much of your feminine power. So it's connected to at the level of the sacral chakra, which is around the height of your cervix, the cervix being that gate between your womb and your vaginal canal. So it's like your cervix is this beautiful gatekeeper that opens and closes at different parts of your cycle to allow sperm in or blood or babies out. So it's this gatekeeper between your womb and your vagina and the outside world, your vulva. So your sacral chakra is really connected to your creativity. And it's said very much that the womb is an organ of creation. So whether that's babies or whether that is your creativity, whether that's whatever you're creating. So you might be creating businesses, lifestyles, legacies, all kinds of other things, artworks and expression. It might be relationships. This energy of creation is held in your womb space. Your womb is the energy of creation. It's also the home of intuition. So a lot of people really identify that their intuition is kind of housed in your womb space. So intuition for me is this deep sense of knowing. And sometimes it's not logical, it's not rational. Some people describe it as like a gut feeling almost. And that can be part of intuition too. But for me, intuition is my body. It's what my body knows to be my truth, as compared to what my head thinks. My head being that logical place of reason and rhyme and pros and cons and shoulds. And for me, the head is about external voices and judgments and pressures, and even judgments of self. Whereas intuition is not, doesn't relate in the same way. It's this voice that knows what's right for me on this deepest level. It's connected to my boundaries, to my authentic truth, to my feminine power, to my pleasure, and to sexuality and sensuality. And so for me, intuition lives down in my womb. And I've said before that my womb is like my oracle. And I say that because my womb knows my truth. My womb knows how I am on any day, depending on where in my menstrual cycle I am. But my womb also tells me what my boundary is about something. Is it a yes or is it a no? And I get like a physical sensation. If it's a no, it can feel for me like a bit wobbly or kind of sore or tender or just like an icky feeling, and I can feel it. And when it's a yes, I have this like sizzling, tingling kind of energy that kind of builds and bubbles and can like brew and like overflow within my body, like shoots upwards. And that's how I know what a yes and a no feels like for me. So rather than sitting there going, is it a yes, is it a no, what do I do? Like in my head, I come back to my body, and this is my place of intuition and knowing. So your womb space, very much connected to your vagina and your cervix and your vulva, and the place of sexual pleasure. Obviously, having a sexual partner or being intimate by yourself is very much housed in this part of your body, and it's where those feelings live. It's where that power, that creative potential can come from activating your sexual pleasure and sexual power as well. And also it's the home of pleasure and sensuality in terms of in non-sexual ways as well. So for me, sensuality is about activating all of my senses. So smell, touch, taste, how something feels, and it's not always to do with sex. So I think that's something that a lot of people really connect, sex and sensuality and pleasure. But for me, they're very, very distinctive. And so I feel like I can really tune into the way I want to live, or the way that I want to live in my life. A beautiful, pleasurable, fun, light, free way of living where I feel free to be who I am and to live life on my terms. And that comes back again to this feeling that I have down in my pelvis of how true I'm being to myself. But also just connecting in every day with what feels good to me, and choosing that, cultivating a connection to pleasure, as opposed to being numb, I guess, and just living life because that's the way that we live life, and not checking in with, is this how I really want to feel and live and show up in the world? So pleasure can teach me whether I'm living the life that I desire to live. And all of this can be held, like I say, in the womb. So when you're connecting into your womb, you're connecting into all of these energies, all of these potentials, and you can enhance your ability to feel and connect and have all of these things in your life. So when you're not connected to your womb, that can show up as problems. So being disconnected from your womb can look like period problems, can look like cycle problems. It can look like painful symptoms, or even numbness. It can also be linked to the pain coming from health conditions. Just for one example, endometriosis, or even fibroids, etc. There's quite a few conditions that are rooted in inflammation, and that can cause us to be really disconnected from our womb space as a place of pain and fear, and can disconnect us from all of these other aspects that I've just described as like a block, so that we can't connect in. It's also really possible to be disembodied, which means to be disembodied means that you don't feel like you're inhabiting yourself. You're not in your physical body. You're disconnected. You're living from the head up, if you've heard that expression. So when you're disembodied, you forget that you are your body, that you have a body even. You separate yourself from your body as your body being this thing that you just inhabit, that does things to you even, that causes pain, for example, or is numb, and that You don't feel like your body's communicating with you or it's part of you. Your womb can also be the home of some real traumas. So a lot of trauma is stored and happens very literally to us in our womb and our pelvis space, whether it's sexual traumas, even fertility challenges, or pregnancy loss. Just for example, these traumas either happen literally to our womb space, or the pain of it gets held in our womb space. And again, this can disconnect us from our womb. And this happens to so many women. So it's highly likely that, so many of us are just living the day-to-day feeling disconnected from our womb. Another way that it can show up is when you have a dull connection to your creativity, or to your intuition. So if you're living, like I said, a very head-based life, making decisions from your head, very caught up in your thoughts, or if you're somebody who has lost a connection to your innate creativity, this can be a sign that perhaps you're disconnected from your womb space. Your womb is energetically linked to all of your other energy centers in your body too, through the muscles, through your blood, through your nervous system. And so working with your womb can really help you to connect into your full energy, your full power in all of these energy centers. And this can give us a real idea of how we can work with and how we can activate our womb space. That it also reminds us that how we feel about our womb, it impacts how we feel about ourself, all of ourself, and our ability to love and accept our whole self. Are you somebody who feels that you are comfortable with all aspects of who you are, who knows yourself truly and deeply inside and out? Are you somebody who's comfortable expressing and feeling all of your emotions? Are you somebody who really struggles at different times of your menstrual cycle? Are you somebody who does not accept and doesn't like certain parts of yourself, characteristics, certain parts of who you are? Because if this is so, then there's a good chance that a part of this stems from how you feel about your womb and your menstrual cycle and your feminine self, who you are, how you were supported and met and initiated and welcomed at the time of your first period, which is the first sort of activation of your womb, the first time your womb came online. So actually connecting into your womb can look like all kinds of things, really. There's all kinds of different ways of doing it. It can mean connecting with it physically. It can mean connecting with it energetically, spiritually. And I'm going to guide you through some ideas, and you can listen in, you can decide which ones feel good to you, what you would really like to do if you feel the call to connect more greatly with your womb. So as a cycle coach, the first thing I'm going to suggest naturally is to connect with your menstrual cycle. So just noticing where in your cycle you are each and every day. But even if you don't do it every day, to be fair, just when you can, as much as you can, noticing where you are in your cycle, what cycle day, which energy, which season that you feel like you are in today. And also just noticing how that cycle day feels for you. So for me, I'm cycle day 13. I am still in my inner spring, my pre-ovulation phase. I'm feeling quite tired for me. That's very much in my head. I feel my womb feels good. There's no particular strong sensation present. Oh, there we go. Now I'm noticing getting a slight aching around the ovaries, actually. Okay. And I noticed that yesterday I had some quite strong kind of tenderness, I'd say. I'd call it tenderness around around the ovaries. So that's interesting. That might mean that there's something going on, maybe moving towards the middle of my cycle. It can be common to get ovary sensations or like tingling or like a pinching at actual ovulation. I don't think I'm ovulating because my cervical fluid is dry and chalky and not wet and thin. You can literally just notice. You might even want to write down. You might just want to put your hands on your body, just take a few moments and just let that, what felt like for me in that example, what felt like an initial, no, nothing, can't feel anything. Suddenly I could sense this sort of tenderness, particularly on the right hand side around where my ovary is. Your ovaries are located kind of around the top of your hip bones inwards a little bit and kind of down a bit as well. So if you put your hands on the top of your hip bones with your thumbs pointing towards your spine and your other 4 fingertips pointing towards the front, then it would be if you put your hands flat on your body, there would be kind of underneath your fingertips on the sides. So that's the first thing you could do. Very simple, nice to just kind of check in and just feel what's present for you. It might mean full-blown cycle charting and noticing exactly how your cervical fluid is, how your womb's feeling. The next thing that I am suggesting is very linked. It's touch and breath. So I really love to guide women and my clients, and I do it myself too, to hold on to your body, place your hands on your womb space on the front of your body and close down your eyes, softening your gaze and breathing in whilst holding on to the front of your womb space. And just breathing into your body and dropping your awareness, dropping your breath down through your body, down to the layers, breathing into your hips, breathing into your pelvic bowl, because your pelvis is shaped like a bowl, with your womb in the middle of that bowl. Just taking some breaths, sending your awareness down. Breathing in. And as sensations arise for you, as you feel things in and around your pelvis, if you can stay present with those feelings, just noticing, not judging or labeling or questioning why, just noticing, breathing, being present with those feelings. That can be really powerful for you, especially if you're somebody who struggles with pain or even numbness, or has any symptoms or discomfort here, or even just feels like it's a really difficult emotional thing to be able to do to connect into this part of your body. So it might just be as simple as that, just placing your hands on the front of your womb, and you might like to put your 2 hands together with your thumbs touching and then your other fingertips touching beneath, and it forms a bit like a triangle, the shape of a womb over the top of your skin, or even if you just sit with one hand on your womb space. It's breathing and being present with the feelings. That might be a beautiful place to start. That might be enough for you. I like to rub my womb space, rub my abdomen, this lower part of my body. I often do it now without even noticing. Just rubbing, perhaps patting, perhaps rubbing in the shape of a circle, perhaps just sitting with my hands on my hips. Just offering some touch when I feel a sensation, or even when I don't, just to acknowledge and be present with those feelings. Really simple. You might like to take this a step further and have some time in meditation to connect more deeply with your womb space. Now, for this purpose, I would invite you to breathe slowly, dropping your awareness, so like your imagination, to vision your womb. Focus on your womb. I again use hands. I like to rub the front of my belly, and I like to bring my womb to life. Now you can do this whether you have a womb or no womb, because if you don't have your womb anymore, or you never had one, in fact, then the energy of your womb, this creativity, intuition, this feminine power, is still very present, because it's connected into your sacral chakra, which is this energy center that goes right through your body at this level. So even if you don't have the physical organ there, you can still connect energetically. And I like to name my womb a she. To me, she is she. And I like to ask my womb, how are you today? How are you? How are you feeling? And if I spend a bit more time, a longer time just connecting in, I might ask, how are you feeling and what do you need? Asking my womb. And I might ask, what would my womb have me know? What would you have me know? That's particularly helpful when I'm trying to make decisions and my head is second guessing or spinning with ideas, or just second guessing myself. Womb, what would you have me know? And this works well when I spend a longer period of time, sort of 10-15 minutes, being fully present in my body and with my womb. And to get to that place, without me guiding you through a meditation here on this episode, that might be something for a future episode. You might like to put your hands on your hips. If you're sitting or standing, you might like to bring a bit of subtle movement to your hips. You might like to simply rock your hips backwards and forwards, or tilt your hips, your pelvis. You might like to spiral your hips in small spirals, small circles, getting bigger and bigger, and then changing direction. And this can help to awaken stagnant energy here. You might be able to hear my voice coming and going slightly. I'm doing it with you as I'm explaining it. So I like to rock as I'm sat in my chair. I'm tilting my pelvis. I'm tilting my pelvis forwards and then backwards. And then I'm spiraling. So hip circles. And this is, like I say, bringing fresh blood, fresh oxygen, fresh energy into your womb space and shifting any stagnant energy that's there. I'm finding myself intuitively with my hands down, rubbing my sacrum, which is the bony plate that connects your spine to the back of your pelvis. So it goes down between your bum cheeks. So it's where your bum crack might be, if that's what you call it. And it's that bony plate. And I feel like a good rub of that part of my body, that bony part of my pelvis. And it's not my womb that I'm rubbing as such, but it's my womb space. And your sacrum and all of the bones of your pelvis are housing, protecting your womb space. The bones to your hips to the sides, your sacrum to the back, your coccyx and or you might call it your tailbone underneath, and the pubis bones that join at the very front underneath your hairline. So these bones are this bony structure, this strength, this beautiful container, this nest for the soft tissues and the blood of your womb space. So connecting in with your bones might be a really, really nice way to start. It can be special to do that if you want to bring safety to this process. If you're feeling that it's a bit challenging for you to connect in with your womb space, you might simply start with bringing your awareness to the bones. You might touch. So with your hands on your hips, just making your way, you're moving your fingers around the back of your hips towards your spine, just feeling the bones. Your hands might move down your sacrum, and you might feel at the very front where your hairline is, the pubis bones, and feel how that goes down the front of your pelvis and ends where your clitoris is. So bringing movement and touch to the bones as well. Just activating your connection, building your awareness of the very structure of your womb space and pelvis. Moving stagnant energy, bringing sensation in. You might want to then take this movement further. You might want to do something on the floor, on all fours. A sensual or embodied movement practice with your eyes closed, with music, rocking your hips, moving your spine, breathing, bringing your awareness in. You might stand, you might move your body, you might follow what feels good. So using your senses, focusing on the pleasure of movement, the pleasure of moving and perhaps touching your pelvis, your womb space. With eyes closed, really focusing on how good it feels just to simply move your body, be in your body, and how your womb feels in this process. So with particular focus on your hips, it can be a really good way to activate this part of your body. Another thing that you might like to do is to connect with your blood. So there's all kinds of blood rituals that you could do to help you to really, I guess, lose a lot of the shame and the stigma associated with blood. So, you might be really connected to your menstrual cycle. You might feel really good about that. You might understand what your cycle looks like and feels like and be cycle syncing like a boss. But when it comes to your blood, this can still be something that brings up a slight bit of what, or, discomfort, shame, disgust, not wanting to actually smell it or touch it. Getting familiar with your blood, getting really tactile with it can be so powerful to normalize your menstrual blood, to connect with its magical properties, its healing properties. It's so full of nutrients and stem cells. It's lifeblood. It's amazing. So if you haven't already, if you're somebody who knows that you don't really actually like the sight of your blood, you might when you bleed next start to look at it, notice the colors, how it changes every single day of your cycle. Notice whether it's dark or brown or bright or pink or any other color as well. Notice the texture of it, smell it, feel its warmth. You might touch it. And there's actually quite a few different things you can do with your blood. So more and more people now are talking about pouring blood back onto the earth because it's like the original, amazing plant fertilizer. And I just pour, I fill a bucket of lukewarm water and I soak my period underwear in there before I pop them in the washing machine, and probably put up maybe 2 or 3 pairs of pants in and this whole huge bucket of water. And that can be on a heavy day, that can be quite a lot of blood. And then just pouring that not on the flowers or the leaves, but at the base of the plant on the earth. Just a good splash can be powerful, incredible fertilizer. And I've noticed that my plants are going nuts since I've been doing this. You can also use your blood to anoint yourself. So you might like to put a dab of your blood on your third eye between your eyebrows and look at yourself in the mirror. What does that bring up for you? How does that feel? Some people use it as a face mask. So putting their blood on their face. It's said to have all kinds of skin healing and soothing and, other properties to support your skin health. But more than that, I think the very act of doing that and then witnessing yourself in the mirror, how does it feel to do that? Do you feel powerful, happy, confident, normal, weird, shamed, crazy, scared someone's going to walk in and see you? How does that feel for you? Reclaiming your blood. It's just blood. It's just blood. It's your blood. It's your magic blood. And the same, you can do that with your cervical fluid as well. So when you have your fertile cervical fluid in the middle of your cycle, you might want to take that and to dab it between your eyes or under your neck where you might wear perfume because it's full of pheromones. You know, that's what they say your cervical fluid is full of. So how do you feel about that? You might want to paint with your blood. So connecting your creativity with your blood can be so powerful. You see all kinds of amazing womb blood artworks or moon blood artworks. If your womb is this creative power, what better way than to use your blood to paint, to make, to create with? How rebellious, how sacred. And so I would love to leave it there and hear from you. What do you do to connect in with your womb if you do something different? Which of these ideas are you going to get started with? What feels like the best place, the best practice for you to start to build or strengthen your existing relationship to your womb? So connecting with your intuition, your creativity, your cycle, your body, your boundaries, your pleasure through your womb. I'd love to hear from you. Let me know. And if you would like more support, you can drop me a question, slide over to Instagram, drop me a DM. And I also would love to hold space for you to go deeper. So you can check out how you can work with me if this is something that you would love to be guided in and to be held space for as you connect in much more deeply to your womb space, to all that has been for you as part of your womb story, and to access your intuition, creativity, these feminine gifts that are stored and waiting to be activated in your womb space. Until next time, lovely. Thanks so much for listening. Thank you so much for listening in. If you're loving this podcast and you'd love to help me spread the wisdom shared, please leave a review or rating or share this with somebody who you think would love to listen in. I'm really passionate about creating ripples of change and getting this information to more women, girls, and people with a cycle so that they can reclaim their cyclic natures too. And if you'd love to dive in deeper with learning more about how to connect with your cycle and rites of passages, come and join our free Wild Flow Circle community or choose a course and learn with me on my online learning hub. All the links are in the show notes. And until next time, be well and go with the flow of your cyclic nature.